So now let's go back to 27 CE. Yahshua's last days. John 12 verse 1. But 6 days before the feast of Pesach, Yahshua came to Bet Anya, where Eleazar, whom Yahshua had raised from among the dead, was. And they made a dinner for him there, and Martha served, and Eleazar was one of the guests who were with him. And Miriam took an alabaster jar of oil of nard of good pistachio, very expensive, and anointed the feet of Yahshua, and wiped his feet with her hair, and the whole house was filled by the smell of the oil. Okay, let's go back to Aviv 27. On the 9th day, which is 6 days before Passover, Yahshua stayed with Eleazar and was anointed by Miriam. John 12:12. And the next day, a large crowd that had come to the feast, when they heard that Yahshua was coming to Jerusalem, took branches of palm trees and went out for his arrival. And they were crying and saying, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahovah, the King of Israel. Okay, so the next day, on the 10th, the day that the Pesach lamb is selected, was the day that Yahshua was selected. On Palm Sunday, Matthew 21 verse 10. And when he had come into Jerusalem, the whole city was seething, saying, Who is this? And the people said, It is Yahshua the prophet from Nazareth of Galilee. And Yahshua entered into the temple of Elohim, and cast outside all the vendors and buyers in the temple, and overturned the tables of the money changers, and the stalls of them that sold the doves. Matthew 21:17. And he left them, and went out of the city to Beit Anya, and lodged there. And he returned in the morning to the city. He was hungry. Matthew chapter 26, verse 6. And as Yahshua was in one Beit Anya, in the house of Shimon the jar merchant, there approached him a woman, having in her hand a flask of precious oil, which she poured upon his head as he was sitting. So we're back to the calendar, and the day after Sabbath, Yahshua goes to Beit Anya, is anointed, and returns. Matthew chapter 21 verse 18. And as he returned in the morning to the city, he was hungry. And when he saw a fig tree by the way, he came to it, and found nothing thereon but leaves only. And he said to it, Let there not come forth of you fruit forever. And immediately the fig tree withered away. And when his Talmudim saw, they marveled, saying, How did it immediately wither away? And Yahshua answered and said to them, Truly I tell you, that if you will have trust, and doubt not, you will do such things not to a fig tree only. But if you will say to this mountain, Be ye lifted up, and cast into the sea, it will come to pass. And whatever you will ask in prayer and trust, you will receive. And when he had come to the temple, the chief Kohanim and elders of the people approached him as he was teaching, saying, By what authority do you do these things? And who gave you this authority? And Yahshua answered and said to them, I will also ask you this thing. Tell me, I in likewise will tell you by what means I am doing these. So on the following day, he curses the fig tree, and is tested. In Luke 22, verse 37, And in the daytime he was teaching in the temple, and at night he went out and abode in the mountain that is called Olivet. And all the people were coming early to him to the temple to hear his words. Now the feast of unleavened bread, which is called Pesach, was near. Okay, so the same day he curses the fig tree and is tested, he goes up and spends the night on the Mount of Olives. John chapter 13. Now before the feast of unleavened bread, Yahshua had known that the time had arrived, that he would depart from this world to his Father. And he loved his people who were in this world, and he loved them to the end. And when dinner was done, and then it jumps to John 14:31, there's some dialogue in between, he said, Arise, let us go from here. And these things Yeshua said, And he went out with his Talmudim to the other side of the brook that is Kidron, where there was a garden into which he had entered, he and his Talmudim. So the following day is his last supper. It is not Passover. And he goes to pray in the garden. And he came a third time and said to them, Sleep now and rest. The end has arrived, and the hour has come. And behold, the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Arise, let us go. Behold, he who has betrayed me draws near. And while he was speaking, Yehuda of the shore of Skiriot, one of the 12, came, and many people with swords and rods, being from the chief Kohanim and scribes and elders. Okay, so he goes through his last supper. It is not a Passover. He prays in the garden and is arrested. And then on the 14th, we have his trial, beating, scourging, death, and burial. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. Okay, the one sign. What is the one sign? What is the one sign that he is Messiah? Matthew 16 verse 38. And certain of the scribes and of the Parashim answered him and said, Rabbi, we wish to see a sign from you. But he answered and said to them, An evil and adulterous generation seeks a sign, but no sign will be given it except the sign of Jonah the prophet. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the fish's belly, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The one sign is 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth, not 1 day and 2 nights. So he died the end of the 4th day just before sundown to the 7th day just before sundown. John 20 verse 1. And in the night that was dawning, at the first of the week, while dark, in the very early dawn, Miriam from Magdala came to the sepulchre, and she saw the stone, that it was taken away from the grave. The point is, sometime between sunset and sunrise, the tomb is empty. So, sometime before sunset, he is risen, as Shabbat ends, just as he said. On the 4th day, just before sundown, to the 7th day, just before sundown, just as he said. Okay, back to the 3rd month. 3rd month is Sivan. And if you'll look on the 6th, on the Sabbath, that is the 49th counting of Omar. The next day is Shavuot, or Pentecost. Leviticus 23, 15 and 16. And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the day of rest, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the waving, 7 weeks shall be complete. Even unto the morrow after the 7th week shall you number 50 days, and you shall present a meal offering unto Yehovah. Shavuot literally means 7. The plural form is Shavuim. It is usually translated as week or weeks, and it is a pilgrimage festival. The theme is hearing the voice of Yehovah and the first fruits of the summer wheat harvest. Now remember Shavuot in history in Exodus 19. We have thunder, lightning, thick cloud, shofar exceedingly loud. All the people in the camp trembled. They stood way back. There was smoke, fire, smoke of a furnace. The whole mountain quaked greatly, and the shofar waxed louder and louder. In Acts chapter 2 verse 1, when the days of Shavuot were fulfilled, then we have suddenly a sound from heaven like a powerful wind, and fire appeared, and when that sound occurred, all the people gathered were troubled. There's a common theme. So now let's take a look at Daniel's 70th Shavuah, or 70th week. Daniel chapter 9 verse 24 and 25. 70 weeks, Shavuim, are decreed upon your people and upon your set-apart city, to finish the transgression, and to make an end of sin, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal vision and prophet, and to anoint the most set apart. Know therefore and discern that from the going forth of the word to restore and build Jerusalem unto Messiah a prince shall be 7 weeks, Shavuim, and 62 weeks, Shavuim, and it shall be built again with broad place and moat, but in troublous times. So here I've rewritten Daniel 9:24 a little different. 70 weeks are decreed upon your people and upon your set-apart city to finish the transgression, make an end of sin, and make reconciliation for iniquity. Those are the things that Yeshua did. Daniel 9:25. Know therefore and discern. What does that mean? That means figure it out. Know therefore and discern that from the going forth of the word to restore and build Jerusalem unto Messiah a prince shall be 7 weeks, 62 weeks. It shall be built again, but with broad place and moat in troublous times. Then we have Daniel 9:24 again. The last 4 are to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal vision and prophet, and anoint the most set apart. Now let's go back to 1948. In May 1948, this is the 3rd month of the Hebrew calendar. This is what the calendar looked like. The month began on Shabbat, and Israel's Independence Day is the 15th, also on Shabbat. The counting of the 35th Omar was on the 1st of the month. The 42nd Omar was on the 8th of the month. The 49th Omar is on the 15th of the month. And the next day is Shavuot, number 1. 1948 plus 70 equals 2018. 2018, remember that day. We will come back to it. 5 signs, proof that the end is near. My little attempt at humor. Okay, back to the 4th month. 4th month, nothing biblical happens right on this month. The 5th month of Av, nothing happens. 6th month of Elul, nothing happens.